Imagine a time when syphilis, a relentless and potentially deadly disease, had no known cure. In the early 20th century, before the advent of modern antibiotics, medical pioneers turned to an extraordinary yet controversial treatment. This daring medical approach involved intentionally infecting patients with malaria, of all things, to combat the treacherous spirochete bacterium causing syphilis. It was a desperate gamble, a radical experiment that held both hope and grave risks. But what drove physicians to take such a daring leap into the unknown? What were the potential life-saving benefits, and at what cost? Join us on this journey as we uncover the untold story of malaria therapy for syphilis, a chapter in medical history that delves into the fine line between innovation and recklessness. In the early 20th century, the world was a very different place. Amid the bustling cities and industrial revolutions, there lurked a silent and sinister threat. Syphilis, caused by the spirochete bacterium Treponema pallidum, was a disease shrouded in fear and stigma. It was known for its devastating progression, leading to everything from disfigurement to organ failure and, ultimately, death. Public health campaigns sought to raise awareness, but without an effective treatment, syphilis continued its relentless march. It was a time of desperation for those afflicted by this mysterious disease. Imagine being diagnosed with syphilis during this era, a diagnosis that often carried social stigma along with physical suffering. People were willing to try anything for a glimmer of hope. The origins of malaria therapy can be traced to the innovative minds of medical pioneers, Julius Wagner-Jauregg among them. Driven by a desperate need to find a cure for syphilis, they explored unconventional paths. Wagner-Jauregg, an Austrian physician, stood at the forefront of this audacious approach. He observed an interesting phenomenon. Patients who suffered from both syphilis and malaria seemed to experience a remission of syphilis symptoms during malaria fever. This observation ignited a spark of curiosity in Wagner-Jauregg and his contemporaries. Could malaria-induced high fevers somehow combat the spirochete bacterium responsible for syphilis? The hypothesis was daring and, at the same time, controversial. To test this theory, they embarked on a journey that would lead to the development of malaria therapy. The principle was deceptively simple. The spirochete bacterium responsible for syphilis was known to be vulnerable to high temperatures. By intentionally infecting syphilis patients with malaria and inducing a fever, it was believed that this fever would act as a weapon against the spirochete. But the application of this principle was far from straightforward. The challenge lay in balancing the intensity of the fever. It needed to be high enough to combat syphilis but not so high that it endangered the patient's life. Thus, precise control was essential. Medical teams meticulously monitored the fever, ensuring it reached the therapeutic range. It was a medical tightrope walk between hope and danger. The idea was that this induced fever, while dangerous, might just be the breakthrough needed to halt the relentless progression of syphilis. But as with all great medical experiments, the devil was in the details. Imagine the anticipation, fear, and hope that welled up in the heart of a syphilis patient facing malaria therapy. Theirs was a journey into the unknown. The patient experience was a pivotal part of this audacious experiment. It was not merely about injecting a malarial parasite. It was about lives hanging in the balance. Some were driven by desperation, clinging to the hope that this fever might offer them a second chance at life. The preparations were meticulous. The patient's overall health and medical history were considered. They were told of the risks, including the possibility of severe complications, such as cerebral malaria. It was a choice made in the face of a dire diagnosis, a choice born from a profound yearning to conquer the sinister shadow of syphilis. As malaria therapy unfolded, it brought not only hope but also a host of unintended consequences. The treatment's central premise was to induce high fevers, but the fever, like a double-edged sword, brought its own set of complications. Patients endured nights of unrelenting chills and fever dreams, their bodies waging a battle on multiple fronts. The fevers were not always controllable. Some patients experienced hyperpyrexia, a life-threatening condition where the body's temperature soared dangerously high. The experiment's unpredictability meant that medical teams were in a constant race against time, striving to balance the benefits and risks, with patient lives hanging in the balance. Complications weren't limited to hyperpyrexia. Cerebral malaria, a severe manifestation of malaria infection, could lead to neurological damage or even death. For many patients and their families, the gamble became a heart-wrenching ordeal. They had embarked on a journey filled with the promise of a cure, but it was not without its price. The turning point came with the serendipitous discovery of penicillin by Alexander Fleming in 1928. This moldy petri dish held the potential to revolutionize medicine. Penicillin was a miracle drug, a powerful antibiotic capable of eliminating bacterial infections, including syphilis, without the risky fevers and complications of malaria therapy. The syphilis landscape was forever altered. Patients no longer faced the harrowing choice of inducing malaria, and the days of high fevers as a cure became a relic of the past. The rise of penicillin was a triumph of science, marking a new era in the battle against infectious diseases. Its impact on the treatment of syphilis was profound. And so, our journey through the world of malaria therapy for syphilis comes to a close. It's a story that reminds us of the remarkable evolution of medicine, where daring experiments paved the way for the safe and effective treatments we rely on today. Thank you for joining us on this educational adventure. If you found this video informative, please subscribe to our channel to explore more captivating stories from the world of health and medicine. Stay curious and stay informed. We'll see you in the next video.